Recording in progress.
Melangkah bersama, tekad kuat penuh harapan, untuk capai tujuan, komitmen untuk masa depan, jadi inspirasi, berkolaborasi inovatif, tunjukkan pada dunia, Ukrida sehat bersinergi, mulia dalam tindakan, berbagi untuk sesama, dari Ukrida untuk Indonesia. Berjayalah Ukrida, semangat tak pernah pudar, membangun Indonesia maju bersama. Ukrida, Ukrida terpercaya, asa mental pemenang, aku kamu kita adalah Ukrida.
Sastra Inggris Ukrida Department of English, where the cultivation of academic and technical skills is at the heart of a language learning program. Begitulah slogan dari Sastra Inggris Ukrida yang berkomitmen untuk menggali soft skills dan hard skills dalam pembelajaran bahasa dan sastra Inggris. Sastra Inggris Ukrida juga memiliki 3 peminatan yang dapat kamu kuasai, yaitu penulisan kreatif, pengajaran bahasa Inggris, dan penerjemahan. Di Sastra Inggris Ukrida, bukan kemampuan bahasa dan sastra Inggris saja yang akan diasah. Kalian juga akan dibekali kemampuan dan keterampilan global agar siap bersaing di dunia kerja. UDI juga menawarkan program unggulan seperti Pull-Out Program, 3-in-1 Field Trip to Yogyakarta, UDI Global Skills, Journalistics Coaching, serta kerjasama dengan mitra dalam dan luar negeri. Gimana? Tertarik nggak kalian? Come and join us in Ukrida Department of English.
Cap-cap dalam melangkah,
profesional masih.
Limbe limbe toyando yo, limbe toyando male.
Sawa sawa toyando yo, sawa toyando maule.
Hello, our enthusiastic participants. Friendly greetings from Ukrida to you all.
Welcome back to Ukrida Virtual Integrated Short Course, Day 6.
To remind you once again, this is a program jointly organized by English Literature Study Program and Ukrida Partnership, an international relation office under the selected theme Literature, Literacy, Language Education, and Translation, platforms for responding to the challenges in the disruptive time.
And this short course is part of the implementation of HIBA Program Kompetisi Kampus Merdeka 2021, granted by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology.
The way I remember, the program is funded by the ministry and Ukrida, right?
Correct, Stephen. So, again, we must not waste such an opportunity, especially for this evening.
Yes, we encourage everyone in the room to stay active and involved along the sessions.
You're right, Stephen. But I still see all of our participants are still excited since the afternoon. Do you notice it?
I do notice them, but it is always better to check their level of excitement again. I think I would like them to show us that they indeed still have the same enthusiasm as the afternoon session.
Okay, let's see. Dear participants, if you feel happy and excited, could you give us this reaction to show your excitement?
I'm glad you all are still riled up until this evening. Let's do another one. If you're ready and want to begin this session right away, could you give us this reaction?
Okay, I think it's enough proof to see that they are all excited for this evening.
Yeah, and just like they all are, I'm excited about this evening session. How about we start the session now?
You sure do, Stephen. But before that, let's explain to the participants again some of the room rules first before we go to the session.
Ah, yes, rules are important, which is why, dear participants, allow us to remind you again of the following room rules. Participants are required to turn on the camera if there is no connection problem. Please let the committee know if you have a problem with your connection. And you should show your presence by responding to the speaker and committee by using the chat box or the reaction. Participants must ensure that the microphone is mute during the session. If there are questions related to the session, please use the raise hand feature and chat box. The questions in the chat box must follow the format: your name, underscore institution or university you came from, underscore your question. So for the example, Stephen underscore Ukrida underscore my question.
And don't forget to rename your Zoom account according to the name used in registration. The Zoom account name must follow the format your institution or university underscore your name. For example, Ukrida underscore Safira. The attendance and evaluation forms will be given at the end of the session today. Thank you.
Safira, do you still remember what we watched in the afternoon?
Yeah, I remember the video, and it's really heartbreaking.
Well, it turns out there's another issue involving children, but this one is even worse. This one is about child trafficking.
We have seen the hands of the children, so rotten. The elder boy or anyone who is there at the home, they send them to go out and work in their very small age. 12 hours, 18 hours on the little food and all. If they are tired, if they are sick, they will not listen, they will just beat them. So what do? We go advocate with them, talk to the parents, talk to the teacher, and then we bring them back. They realize that yes, if my child is staying here, going to school, studying little bit, eating my food, staying with me, that is going to make better human being. It is such a huge racket of traffickers. Money, muscle power, and the power of authority is with them.
कमा के पैसा भेजा जे हम यहाँ आगे बढ़ी समझ गई ना हाँ हाँ नहीं होगा काम तो आराम करेगा.
Now even the children are becoming aware.
मैं अपने घर से आ रहा था बाज़ार में, तो यह देखा कि 3 लड़कों को एक ठेकेदार बस पर चढ़ा रहा था। यह बताया था कि हमारे जो बचपन परियोजना में यह चलता है, उसमें 3 बच्चे को ठेकेदार पकड़ कर ले जा रहा है बाहर बाल मजदूरी कराने के लिए। वो आगे के एक्शन लिए और उन बच्चे को बाहर नहीं जाने दिए। पहले जो ये नहीं आए थे बचपन परियोजना, तो हमारे यहाँ बहुत बच्चे घूमते थे, पढ़ने नहीं जाते थे। अब ये आए हैं तो सभी बच्चे, अब कोई नहीं ऐसा बच्चा है जो नहीं स्कूल से जा रहा हो।
Nowadays, It is not happening very openly because we are there. They call us watchdog. Child marriage should be stopped and the child should be given space where he can play, he can earn, he can learn, and he can become fully human and fully alive. This is what I believe.
This is saddening. It reminds me of those children we see often near our university, the one who sells tissues. We know that they are supposed to be in school, receiving education, rather than working like that. But unfortunately, some people see them as common things, so they tend to ignore and pretend that they didn't see anything.
Children who are forced to work at the expense of their childhood are something unacceptable. Yet the society we live in is still doing that, even though it's less than it ever was.
Yeah. After seeing this issue, I don't think we have such power like the government to help them. But I guess we still can do something about it. We, as millennials who use social media often, can do something about this issue. Rather than making a viral out of dancing, funny things, or other less important stuff, why don't we videotaping this issue whenever we see it and post it on our social media?
That's right. Even though we cannot make a big impact, at least we can start small by spreading awareness. Oh, it could also be one way to raise awareness. Since it will go viral, people will see this issue as urgent and so important to pay attention to it. It is also opening chance for us to be noticed by the National Commission for Child Protection.
Exactly. We can tag them along with our posts on social media. And hopefully, we can help to gradually address this issue. Steven, I think we almost forgot. The participants is not only in the Zoom room, but we also have another audience from YouTube.
Yes, we also have our participants from YouTube, and we welcome you to join us in this session for today.
Let's give them a little spirit from the Zoom to the YouTube. How about if we give them virtual reaction? You could give anything, any emoticon or stickers on your screen. Okay, hi everyone on YouTube. We welcome you too.
We do you hope enjoy this evening session.
Right. Dear participants, we'll begin the session shortly. Steven, would you like to remind our dear participants about what are we going to do this evening?
It will be my pleasure. Today, we're going to have a session with Professor Michael Lacey Freeman, who will unveil the secret behind story writing and storytelling. He will share us about storytelling, capturing, and retelling the world.
That's right. The session will also be moderated by Miss Emanuela Natalia M. Hum, as the moderator. I will now give the screen and time to Miss Leah.
Thank you, Safira and Stephen. What a lovely, wonderful evening today. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, Professor Michael. A warm welcome to Professor Michael Lacey Freeman. And then please allow me to introduce Professor Michael before we start the session. Professor Michael Lacey Freeman has been working in the field of ELT for 30 years, both as a teacher and ELT author. He is also a storyteller and has traveled extensively around the world to tell his stories and to spread the message that our words are powerful. He has written materials for many course books, and 12 of his graded readers have been published, which 5 of them had won international awards. I believe we are in the right and professional hands today to learn how to tell the stories and retelling the stories. And then in 2017, he was invited to be on the board of directors of the Extensive Reader Foundation, or ERF, and his current publication is Elevate, a university course book. Without further delay, Professor Michael, please, the screen and time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nia. Thank you for your introduction. Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot about this course and all good things, that it's a wonderful group full of energy, full of ideas and enthusiasm. And so, I was looking forward to meeting you and to being able to talk to you here on Zoom, and also I know on YouTube some people are following, and my job today is to obviously talk to you about stories and how important they are, and I feel it's a real privilege for me to have this opportunity to be able to do that with you today. Stories are basically everywhere. They are so important. They help us to make sense of the world we live in. They help us to make change as well. What the video that we just saw about the child trafficking, for example, they help us to promote, to push forward change, to make people think. Stories make us laugh. They make us cry. That we grow up with stories. We learn key skills with stories as well. I would say that without stories, our world would be a completely different place. I think it would be a very sad place. And maybe it would be a place that really would be so different. It would be like almost impossible to live in. I would say that stories are one of the things that we need, and without them, I think they save the world. They can save the world, and they do. And I'll explain what I mean, obviously, by that very, very bold statement today. In these 3 hours that I have, this time that I have with you, I want to explain why, and I want to take this journey with you a little bit, and we can talk about these kind of issues and examine stories and what they mean to you. And maybe, why not, we could even at the end talk about writing your own stories. Okay, so that's my plan. I wanted to begin by telling you a story, because I think then we have the raw material, we have something we can work on. And then I would like to talk about what makes a story. Okay, what is it that makes us move, that makes a story work? And then talk about creating and retelling our own world. How do you do that? What can we do to retell, to create, to interpret, to make change, to make a difference, to make someone think, to make you feel better, because you are creating something and sharing something with another human being. Because believe me, that question, what happens next, is one of the questions that makes us human. It's something that drives forward everything, not just in literature, but in every field. Whatever you study, that curiosity to know what happens next, it drives everything. And so that's what I want to do in this short time I have with you. And I'm really thrilled. I'm going to share my screen now with you, because I'd like to use some slides for the first part of the. So now I'm just hoping that you can see. Can you see that okay, everybody? Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Okay. I'm not going to make the full screen because I like to see as many of you as possible. I like to see your faces. So if that's okay, if I can keep it like that, and I use the slides as really as a guide, really. And it's like, as the session is being recorded, I think if you want to capture any of the ideas on the slides or anything, you can have a second or third opportunity to do that. So that's no problem. I hope that at the end of this session, even that we can keep in touch. You can maybe send me your ideas for stories, and the stories maybe that you want to share with the world, and with schools, with students, because I know that's an objective of this course, is to bring what you have learned into schools. And that's beautiful, because that's what education is all about, you know. It's this type of circular thing where you're learning and teaching and learning and teaching. And now I asked before, I think, if you could read Egghead. Have you read Egghead? Could you give me a thumbs up if you have read this story here? Yeah, okay. This story here is probably the story that I am most connected to, and the most important story that I have ever written. And it does those things I talked about before. It helps me to make sense of things. Hopefully it helps the people who read it, especially children, to make sense of the world they live in, and to think about big things, big issues, important things through the story. And so obviously I would like to leave some space if you have some questions about the story that you have read, and feel free. Maybe we can make some space to do that in a minute. But I'm conscious of the fact that maybe not everybody has read the story. So I'd like to tell another story that is associated with this story, okay? Which, if you have read the story, will give you more information, and you will be interested in it for that reason. But if you haven't read the story, it will help you to understand who Egghead is, okay, and why this story exists. Basically, this story, and tell me if you can see the slide, yeah, if there's any problem, we're on the third slide here. Basically, this story is about how this boy in the picture that of the front cover of the story that I showed you, became this man on the right, because both of these pictures, one is an illustration of me as a boy. I had blonde hair when I was a boy, very blonde. And the second is a photograph of me. And in the first photograph on the left, on the illustration on the left, it's me looking at school and not wanting to go to school, and being really frightened because I was bullied mentally and physically every day of my school life. Was a struggle to get to the end of the day and to leave that classroom. And on the right, there's a picture of me talking about that time of my life in front of a classroom full of children. And here I'm inside the school. I still have the same kind of hairstyle, the same kind of mass of hair, but there are two very different me's here, how this transition took place. And I had this opportunity to, and I do have regularly this opportunity to go inside schools and share my story, which is the story of so many people. Because what stories do, why they capture our hearts, is because they connect with all of us. You know, it's not just my story. The moment that story is told to somebody else, then it becomes something bigger. It's like when you write a story, it's like having a skeleton. And then when you send it into the world, flesh is added to the bone. It has a life of its own. People see things in the story that I never saw because they add themselves to the story. It's an act of sharing, an act of communion, an act where we are truly together as human beings, irrespective of where we live. That's how important stories are. So I want to tell this story. I hope you can hear me okay. Of this transition, how this happened. Why this book, why this story happened. Okay. When I was at school and I had this difficult time being bullied and on a daily basis, I had two things that helped me to survive. Two very important things. One thing, I had a friend, a really important friend who was with me all the time. Every time I had a problem or a question, he was there. He was there for me. This friend was quite particular. I mean, he was special. I mean, he was like no other friend. And the reason he was different from other friends was because he didn't exist. He was an invisible friend. He was an imaginary friend. And his name was Andrew. But he was very important to me. He was my shadow. He would walk with me to school every day. And he would say, Michael, it's okay. You're okay. You'll be okay. What's interesting is that, you know, for me, and Andrew is, whenever I talk about my story, Andrew, it depends on the culture, it depends on who I'm speaking to, what Andrew represents. But it's always something like that everybody can relate to. The second thing I had, which was really important to me, was stories. The stories that I had, that I would read every evening from 7 o'clock in the evening to 9 o'clock, 2 hours every evening I would read. I didn't watch television. Television at 7 o'clock, stop. There was no television. That was the rule in my house. And thank you. I thank my mother and my father for this, actually, because all I could do was read in these 2 hours, and I loved it. And when I opened those books, it was like opening a door into another world where nobody could touch me. In those stories, nobody called me the name Egghead. Nobody could follow me. And the characters became part of a community that I was a part of. I could live there. I could be comfortable and happy in that world. And so I went on desert islands, on the ocean. I went into outer space. I was a pirate. I was an adventurer. I was an astronaut. And all of these stories were so important to me. At 9 o'clock, I had to close the book. It was time for bed. And it was like the door closed. And I had to become me again. And I didn't want to be me. When you are bullied, when you are a child, what happens is that you believe what everybody says about you is true. You have no faculty to respond to this. No, it's very difficult to challenge. So you believe that everything is true. So I believed that I was no good. I believed that I was a failure, that I was useless, that I would never manage to do anything useful, that I would never have a girlfriend, that I would never kiss a girl. All of these things I believed. And I also believed. So I didn't want to be me. And I didn't want to talk to my parents about this. Because they didn't know I was egghead. if they know I'm egghead, then they will tease me too. Then they will realize that I am useless and no good. And this is what happens in the minds of children. This is what happens. This is why they don't talk often. Because many people ask me this question about egghead. You know, why didn't you say to your parents that you don't? You keep it as a secret. Andrew and me and my stories. And then one day, a teacher came into my life. The reason I'm a teacher is because of this teacher. And she changed everything. And how did she change everything? She very effortlessly, she noticed me. She noticed the little boy in the corner of the room, trying to make himself small, trying not to be noticed. She noticed him, and she understood that this little boy liked reading. And so one day she came into the classroom with a pile of books like this, and she called me at the end of the lesson and she said, Michael, I know that you like reading. I know that you love reading. I've got some books that I really love. These are my favorite books. I would love you to read them and tell me what you think. What I think. Me. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I went home and 7 o'clock, I opened the first book. And at the beginning, I was reading for my teacher because I loved her. But after 30 minutes, I was reading for myself. It began a love affair with reading that has never stopped, that will never stop, that has fueled me, that has helped me in everything I have ever done. Everything I have ever achieved is thanks to that. This is what a teacher can do. And I'm sure you have teachers in that travel with you, that follow you, that are with you. And this teacher, her name is Mrs. Hewitt. She has no first name because she is simply Mrs. Hewitt. She convinced me to tell my parents. And here I am with my father, the fashion of the fashion of the time. My father with his sunglasses and yeah, maybe you can see on my face that I'm not exactly very comfortable in my skin. But she convinced me to tell my parents. And I did, because I trusted her. And because of that, I realized that my parents weren't going to call me egghead. They loved me. They were with me. I was not alone. It was not just me and Andrew. My parents also helped me and loved me and made me feel as though I was important. So thanks to my teacher, this amazing transformation began to take place in my life. I was still bullied. But I had something now. I wasn't alone. I had something that I could hold on to. And I got stronger and stronger in my response to these things, not physically, but mentally. When I was 16, I stopped being bullied. Maybe my body grew and my situation changed. And basically, I stopped being bullied. At 16, it's finished. This chapter of my life stopped. There was a new chapter, and I decided not to speak about the bullying ever. I didn't want to tell anybody. And so I went through my life. I went to university. Eventually, I went to university and I had a good job, and I moved to Italy to teach. I got a job at university. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell anybody about being bullied, ever. Until I was 50 years old, 50 years old. 34 years later, I went to England to my home, and I was going to meet my sister and for dinner, and I was really excited about this. I hadn't seen my sister for 6 months. And so I went to the restaurant to celebrate my 50th birthday. And I went inside the restaurant. I opened the door and I looked around, and there was my sister. But there were also about 100 other people from my life, friends, relatives. Everybody that was important part of my life was in that room, because there was a surprise party for me, a surprise birthday party. My face, I couldn't believe it. I didn't want the evening to end. But my mother had positioned one person by the door, so that it would be the first person I would see. And that person was my teacher from 34 years before. She was now an old lady, and I wasn't a young boy anymore. But instantly I became a young boy again. When I spoke to her, I said, "Good evening, Mrs." with this tiny broken voice, like of an 11-year-old boy, of a 10-year-old boy, 11-year-old, because I was so overwhelmed by the fact that there was my teacher. And something inside me changed. Seeing my teacher again. She's always been a catalyst for me. So I went back to Italy and I became egghead again. And I decided to slip inside the skin of the boy you see in the photograph there, and to write his story, and to write just like him, and to see the world through his eyes again, to retell his story. It was I normally, when I write stories, they take much longer. This story came out of me so fast. I couldn't keep up. I just was on the computer typing out the story, and it just came out so quickly. I was determined. I decided that I wanted to write a story where I thought if at least one person felt less alone because of my story, then it was a job that I had to do. Because now, with our children, another big, enormous problem that we have is that when I was a child, when I was that boy, when I had finished school and I went home, I shut the door of my bedroom and I was safe. Now, no, the bullying follows you into the room with WhatsApp, with social media, that we just talked about in that video. It can be used for so many good things. And that's what the video talked about that we watched just before I started talking. But it also, obviously, can be so badly misused. And so I wanted to write this story, and I wrote it, and it came out of me really quickly. And I finished the story, and I sat there, and then I thought, there's something missing. And I went for a walk. And the story is so I have to have some water. The story is a little bit, I imagined a young boy sits with his head down, telling his secret to everybody. And then I came back, and the end of the story is when Andrew says goodbye to me. I don't need Andrew anymore. And so I say goodbye to Andrew. And the last line was, maybe he's busy helping somebody else right now. Maybe Andrew is helping somebody else right now. And then I went for a walk, and then I came back, and the last line came to me, which I dropped a line, and I don't know whether you can see it here. Maybe he is helping you. That's what a story, that's the line I needed, because that's what a story can do. It can reach out and help people that you will never meet, maybe. Will help, it will be that friend, will be that. And I wrote that line, and then I knew my job, the story was finished, and I sent it to the editors. 2 months later, I had the book, maybe some month, I can't remember exactly the time, but I had the book in my hand and I knew exactly what I needed to do. I booked a flight to London and I caught the flight and I got off the plane and I went to a town. I went to a street with and there was a house on this street and I went to this house. Inside the house, I went into the garden. There was a door. I knocked on the door. The door opened and there was my teacher. And I gave her the book. I handed the book to her and I said, "Thank you." The circle was complete. Sometimes a circle, it can take a long time to complete. Sometimes a shorter time. But the circle was complete. Or at least I thought it was complete. But then Egghead, from being a story that I thought maybe even if one child read would make a difference to their lives, it became a story that was popular. Like that children, lots of children read. In Italy, but also in other countries, in Indonesia, in Mexico, Japan, many, many different countries. It started to travel around the world. I thought that I would take Egghead with me into schools, but it was Egghead that was taking me. The story took me into schools. Look at this picture here where, for privacy reasons, all of the faces have been blanked out except for my smiling face, and you can see how happy I am. And this is a school in Rome. And in the story, there is a moment, if you have read the story, where I'm obsessed with football because I am never allowed to participate in the game and I want to play football, but I can't because I'm bullied and I can't, and I'm not allowed to play. So the kids, they decide, okay, let's address this injustice. Even though over 30 years have passed, they bought me a football. And we played football together. They wanted to make it right. Again, that's what a story can do. They wanted to give me this ball. And even though I was this, obviously, they are 13. I'm 50 something. I am Michael from Egghead. And for this reason, children who often don't, it's difficult to get all the children in the class to speak English. Some of them do, some of them don't. All of them were asking me questions in English. And that's what happens. And I call it the circle because if you look at the last photograph there, they are making a circle around me. And they are asking me questions one after the other in English. Because they want to know what happens next. They want to know, this guy standing in front of them, what happened to you? I've read your story and now I want to know all the other things that happened to you. Why are you there, One of the things that I always ask the students, the teacher, sorry, I ask the teacher, I say, don't tell me who is being bullied. I will understand. I understand from body language. I understand their posture. But I also understand from the question that they ask. Because all of them ask the same question. And it's a very simple question. The question is, are you happy? And I know that they are bullied if they ask this question because they cannot imagine a life, a world, a future where they will be happy. That's how, a child who is bullied, how they see the world. And bullying is such a common thing. This is my story, but it's so many people's stories. And this is what happens. This is what happens. And so basically this circle, happens. And There is this energy, and this is all created by story. So all of these things, that I said at the beginning, about why stories are powerful, it can be just summed up in the story that I've just shared with you. How many things. It still continues to travel, Egghead. It never stops. I've got like 2 appointments to speak in schools over the next few months. Different projects there are against bullying that I'm involved in, and this is what the story has done for me. And that is my story. Thank you for listening. Okay, so if you have read Egghead, then you have 2 stories now. You have the story and the story behind the story. I wanted to ask you now, if you can think about the story that you've read and the story that you have just heard. And I'd like to ask you, what makes a story? What is it about the story that you have just heard that makes it a story? What are the ingredients in this kind of cooking pot that we have that make a story? What are the magic ingredients that make a story? That's the question I want to ask you. And I don't know if you can activate your microphones and share some things now, if that's possible. Leah, is that possible if we can do that?
Yes, it is possible, Professor. Everybody, if you would like to answer the questions, maybe we can invite them via chat box first, Professor, or probably you can raise your hand so that Professor can see you, Professor Michael can see you, so that you can turn on your mic and answer the questions of what makes a story. Yeah.
Okay, so we can do it in the chat box, yeah?
Right.
Okay.
We have one person raise a hand, Professor, is Angelo.
Angelo.
Yes.
Hi, Angelo.
Turn on your mic, Angelo.
Yes, thank you. I think what makes a story, I think one of the main thing is experience, because like the story that I read for a couple minutes ago, it was about the experience of the past, so that can be made a story. That's why I think.
Yeah, experience. So a lived experience that you can share. Absolutely, that's a very important ingredient. Absolutely, really important. I'll come back to that, Angela. Thank you.
Yeah, there's another person who raised their hands. We have Angelia and Ben. So, Angel, please turn on your mic.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Leah. Okay, hello, Mr. Michael. So I would like to answer your question. So I think what makes a story is the unforgettable experience that we had, and also that experience must be something which can change our perspectives maybe, or something that is really huge. So it really changes our way of thinking and also our our points of view. I think that.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So something that makes you reflect, makes you think, and maybe is cathartic, makes you change the way you see. And so, yeah, absolutely. So many different worlds we can enter, we can be a part of through stories and understand them through the eyes of somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michael.
There are more students raise their hands. Are we going to listen to all of them, or are you going to pick 1 or 2, sir?
I don't know how many people. I can see 3 people with the hand raised. So,
right, there are 3 before there's more to it, but then could we have 3
people have got things to say, so let's go with it. Let's go with it.
All right then. Shall we take just 1, sir?
I think it's anybody. I think that more than one is fine. If people want to speak.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, everybody, please make it short then. Maybe we start from Ben, please.
Okay, thank you. So for a while now, I've been taking commission, writing stories mostly for people who need help writing scripts for their projects. And I've noticed that most of my scripts that people like on the first try, those are all stories that I've put a little bit of myself in it, a little bit of how I would react, a little bit of how my good friend would react, a little bit of how my mom would react. Those are all the scripts and the stories that they would say, oh yeah, I like this one. And every time I try to make something out of, secondhand experience. For example, this one time I've been commissioned to make a script about a comic about transgender identity from a non-binary friend of mine. I tried to I went to Reddit. I read every story about rejection and coming out, and I thought it was good, but they kept saying that it's missing something. It's missing something. I don't know what it is. It's missing something. And then I remade it from the ground up, and I thought to myself, I know what it feels like to be a transgender. I don't know what it feels like to be a non-binary person, but I know what rejection feels like. I know what's being made fun of for being feminine feels like. Maybe it's like that, and they like it better. So I suppose
that's a very good point. Yes, absolutely. You're putting something of yourself. You're finding that connection, that thing that connects you to the story, and then you feel there's nothing missing. It's there. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's an excellent point. I mean, obviously, a lot of these things I'm going to talk about, but you're bringing out all of your really important themes, I think. And I notice in the chat as well, there are many contributions there as well. So that's wonderful. Thank you. Is it Ben? Thank you. It's really interesting.
Thank you.
And I really relate to what you're saying. Maybe we can have like Aaliyah, we can have one more person. I don't know. I don't want to. I can only see two people with the hand up. So
right, we have Andreas. Maybe Andreas can say something very quick.
Okay, thank you for the time. For me, what makes a story is how can they captivate the readers? How can they make readers immersed in the story? How can they touch the reader's feeling? Sorry.
Feelings, emotions.
Yeah. How they can the story moves the reader's feeling. I guess that's what's the story. In my opinion, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Emotions are the thing is basically that we can all relate to, universal, and it's the lifeblood of a story. It's making that connection. That's a story has to do that. You can't leave you cold. A story. That's why the character you want them to be okay. You have a connection with that person in that story, because that person to a certain extent is you as well, because you have lived those emotions. You know what those emotions are. You know what, as Ben said, what rejection is, and so you can make it your own story as well. It's emotions are a key thing. I think absolutely. I look for that in a story. I can look at some of the things in the chat here. Wow, lots of things here.
There are lots of contribution in the chat box also, Professor there are from Nurani Ayu Febriana that everything can make a story, but a good story contains a moral value. So the person, Runani said that moral value is quite important and make the reader feel, so that it serves like a window to the readers to understand. Some of them are actually also looking at the emotional that is being put into the story as well.
Yes, yes. I mean, sorry about the translation. Don Appan, who says, I think it's the main character, and this is relates to what was said. You said before about Andrea. You said about relating, about having a connection and this feeling. Yeah, I'm reading them. It's the feeling, feelings, emotions. This is really interesting. Everyone's talking about this aspect to it. It's life experience, feelings. I'm just reading through them. Yeah. The connection, the feeling, all of this. Yeah. A good message, and also yes, this idea of values, as you said, Leah, is very obviously is something which, let's say that people can maybe they make the story their own, so you don't want to sort of be preachy or anything like that, or give the idea that you are trying to teach something. It's something that I think that comes out and people personalize and make their own. I think people will soon realize if you are being too kind of preachy, you know what I mean, being too telling someone how they should behave. Okay.
Yes, that's right. Agree, Professor.
But it's very interesting. In fact, it'd be good to get a note of all these different things. I mean, we'll come back to this, but the emotional and conceptual power of reorganizing our reality through the eyes of our experience. This is Anna from Tel Aviv who's written that, and that's very incisive as well. Absolutely. I mean, I think that the experience of actually retelling that reality has made me stronger. It's a vehicle as well to give you strength through sharing something like that. It's given me this energy and this strength that I didn't think that I possessed until the story came out. It's a cathartic thing. So absolutely, Anna, yes. If I may go on just for a minute, I would say that we are all storytellers. I mean, it's not like something that it's something that we all do every single day of our lives. We tell stories. If you think about it, when is the last time you told a story? Or heard a story, apart from just now, obviously, or read a story or wrote it? When is the last time you were exposed to a story in some way? Either by telling it or by receiving it. I think it's like non-stop. Everything is a story, everything. If someone says to you, when you finish the workshop, oh, how was your day? You will transform it into a story. If someone asks about the story of your life, it will be a story, not a sequence of undisconnected events. You may turn it into a story with a purpose and with, there'll be some kind of dynamic to it, which will seem like that there is a story. If you switch on the TV, you're watching films that ask you what happens next. You're watching a TV series that ask you what happens next. You are watching soap operas that do this. Even reality shows do this. You want to know what happens next, the next episode or the next season or whatever. We are surrounded by stories. We tell stories and we see them, we hear them non-stop. And we tell stories. Like, I think without stories, our life well, it would be so different, would be completely different, as I said at the beginning. Think of things like of something like money, for example. Money is a story. There is this story that we believe that this piece of paper has a value, that is worth a certain amount of, and then if we give this in a shop to somebody, we can exchange it for something. But this piece of paper really isn't worth nothing. In reality, the value it has is the value that we put on it through making it into something that's called money. Even this is a story. If you think about this, everything, our whole reality, the reality we create is in some way a story. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we're really extending maybe the meaning of stories here, but even okay, I'm sitting in Italy now. I'm sitting in a house with kind of maybe walls that are a little bit too green. I hope they're not too green. Some of you are in Indonesia, some of you are in other countries. I'm sitting in Italy, and Italy is also a story. I mean, we are all human beings, really. The fact that there are Italians and there are British people and there are Indonesians and there are Japanese, it's a story we've invented, basically. We haven't always been. There hasn't always been Italy and Britain and Japan. Yeah, it's a story again. And so I think we've got to sort of also remember this, that we all have this in us, that we are all storytellers, that we need stories. We need to know what happens next. And really, I think the story, the work, the stories, the things that really move you are the things that engage you emotionally and intellectually. The head and the heart. If you have both of these things engaged, then you have learning, then you have curiosity, then you have involvement. Not just the head and not just the heart, but both of these things working at the same time. And with a story, what happens is that both of these things happen, and then you kind of forget yourself. When you're in a story, you forget who you are because you're part of something so much bigger. How many times have you been to the cinema? Many times, all of us, yeah? Especially pre-COVID. What happens when we go to the cinema? What happens to us? Well, we go in, we sit down, the film starts, and we are still thinking about what we have to do tomorrow and what we should have done yesterday and what we need to do when we get home. But after, maybe if it's a good film, 10 minutes or so, we forget about who we are. We are inside the story. And we don't think about ourselves so much. I mean, we're just in the story. And then suddenly the lights come on. And on the screen there is written the end. And just for a few seconds, maybe we feel a bit confused because we have become ourselves again. You know what I mean? That's what a story can do. It's because you have been engaged emotionally and intellectually. Both are linked. Also, I think we are all storytellers because it has to be a communicative act. It's not a question of me as a writer. When I write a story, it's not about me saying, look how clever I am. Look at what I can write. It's about communicating with the reader. It's about being with that person and not losing that person. It's an intimate relationship that whenever you write a story, you have to decide first who you are writing for. If you think about it, it makes sense, yeah? If you are speaking to someone, you think, okay, who am I speaking to? If you're speaking to your grandmother, you speak to your grandmother in a different way to the way that you speak to your son or your daughter or your sister or your friend. And it's the same when you're writing a story. It's important to know who you are writing to, and to not lose that person. I always have a picture in my head of the person that I'm writing for. always. And so I think it's really important that not to try to be clever, not to show off, as we say, not to sort of do acrobatics or say, look what I can write. But the important thing is that is the reader with me? Are they understanding? Are they following me? Will they enjoy this? And all the time asking that, so that, you know, it's a cliche to talk about a story as being like a journey, but really that's what it is. You know, it's, you know, you want to get the reader to the finishing line. You know, you want them to be with you when you arrive at the end. When I write, you know, maybe he's helping you, I want that person to be there reading that line. I don't want to lose them. So often, and I completely agree with all the people that talked about emotions and feelings, because for me, it is the key thing. And often you don't need complicated language to express emotion. Look at this excerpt from The Elephant Man, which is a story again about, in a way, connected to bullying, connected to prejudice. And it's about a man who is like, his head is so kind of like heavy that he has to, and it looks different from, it looks so different that he's so embarrassed that he has to put a bag over his head. It's a true story. And he lives a terrible life. It's a terribly sad story. But if you look at just this simple language here, the Elephant Man, in his one good hand, he had the little picture of his mother. Little picture. Okay, gives this idea of distance, of something really tiny, small. A little picture of his mother far away. He looked at the picture for a minute. A minute. A minute is such a long time to look at a picture. And then put it by a flower on the table. Flower, beauty. Just in those 3 lines, you have all of those things, the distance from the person that he loves most in the world, the time, the love that he has for this person, and the feeling of beauty, the only kind of chink of light that he has in his life. And all of those things are just in 3 simple sentences. That is what, you know, when we're telling stories, we're looking for that. We're not looking for complicated, difficult words, difficult language. We're not showing up. We are trying to communicate an emotion. We're trying to communicate something that makes us human. This is something that I wrote. It's about a story about a horse, actually, called Black Beauty. It's actually, I wrote an adaptation of this story. And in this story, Black Beauty, the horse, he's saying goodbye to the one person that he loves, which is his owner, this boy. And here we have, you know, I held my face close to John's face. That was all I could do to say goodbye. And again, because he's trapped inside the body of a horse, in the sense he can't say goodbye, he can't tell John how he feels. But he does it with his actions. And basically, every person who reads this knows what loss means. And so they can understand it and relate to it, because emotions are universal. No, we all know what they mean. We all have this language. And so you're speaking to everybody in this way. With just simple language, you're connecting. And so that you understand things, you know, like loneliness, fear, joy, Again, fear, really. Love. You can, like, you basically, there's things that we are, the territory that we all know, the places that we all go to all the time. So so a writer, when you write a story, whenever you tell a story, this is the ground that you must cover. This is the thing that I think you have to think about, because this is where you make that connection with the reader. Because the reader will fill in the gap, with their own experience. Because that reader knows what loss is and knows what fear is and joy and love. And so you're allowing the space for the reader to do that. And in the story that I told you, all the time, I think I was trying to connect with you and communicate with you the feelings that you know and you have experienced as well. And so we're making this connection across the ocean, really. And that's what stories, they take away all of this prejudice and all of this, this division and all the ridiculous things like that. And they complete that bridge across thousands and thousands of kilometers, potentially, through stories. And I would say that stories, they don't have to be about extraordinary things. The comment earlier with Ben about the experience that of trying to tell a story, maybe of something that isn't part of his direct experience, and then finding that common ground so that he can tell the story. You can create the extraordinary out of the ordinary, because stories are everywhere. I mean, sometimes I've written a story about being on a bus without a ticket. I've written a story about asking a girl out for a pizza. I've written a story about taking a train in Japan to Kyoto, but like really simple kind of like train journeys, bus journeys, telephone calls. You can create an extraordinary story out of something very ordinary. You don't need to go to outer space or to the jungle or to the desert to do this. Okay, you can just do this. And I have no idea what the time is. I've just got to check the time, because I'm going to give you a break in a minute. Maybe it's good for a break in a minute, but I just want to break with this story, okay, before we... So basically, you can create something extraordinary out of something ordinary, and you do it like this. I'm telling you this story. It's not my story, but it's a powerful story. Okay. This story is basically it's about a little boy who is going to school. And you can see on the ground, it's very slippery. There's lots of ice. And so this poor boy, he's walking to school, he's getting late, but every time he takes one step forward, he slips and takes 2 steps back. And so he gets farther and farther away from school. He doesn't seem to he moves away from the school because he takes 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And he has to get to school. The teacher, he always gets angry if he's late. Now he's going to get really angry because I'm going to be really late for school. What am I going to do? When the boy arrives at school, he says, sorry, I'm late. So, really late. He said, why are you so late? He said, well, sir, I took 1 step forward and towards the school, and then I would take 2 steps backwards. And I was going away from the school. So the teacher thought about this for a moment. And then he said, but how did you get to school then? You think about it. How did he get to school? He said, well, it's simple, sir, really. I turned round and walked home. And that's what you do with stories. Because in order to, and this is the response to this, to Ben, really, this is the response. through this story, because in order to get to the destination, in order to write a story and communicate with someone, you always have to go home. You can go to outer space. You can go to a desert island. You can be a pirate, but you still have to go home to do it. And never forget that connection that is so important. Let's have a break, okay? Because you've listened to me for a long time now. I wanted to ask Leah if she could play. I know that there's a kind of a, I don't know whether you can do it now, but I made a song about Egghead, for Egghead, because I also, every story that I write, I make a song with my friend, Lorenzo Paoloni. And we make a song that kind of summarizes, that helps to create the mood of the story. And after the break, we can talk about this story if you listen to the lyrics, because they're very important, the lyrics to this song. Forgive the really bad video. I just put, it was the first one I made, and I put any photograph related to Egghead that I could find. So it's not a very good video, but I really wanted to put it out there. Yeah. So maybe you could start with that and then energize her before we continue, we carry on. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Professor Michael. I think the committee has already prepared that. So, right, I would like to call Angeline.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Leah, and also Professor Michael, for the opportunity. And it will be great if both of you could also join our Energizer. And just like Professor Michael have mentioned, we use the song, and then everyone, this is our daily Energizer. I hope you feel excited. Okay, I see some of you already wants to stand up. Okay, let's stand up. Turn on your camera and also prepare to stand up, everyone. All right. Okay. Okay, now before we go.
Okay, wait up, Angeline. Professor Michael, could you please stop the sharing screen for a while?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Professor Michael, okay, I see some of you already stand up. That's great. Okay, everyone, before we go to the main event of our dance, just stretch our body first. Okay, your body feels stiff, right? After what is it? Sit for so long. So just stretch your body, relax yourself. Okay. Okay. Okay, now I would like to ask Kavinki to begin our video. All right, everyone, express yourself through the song.
I'm the best, I'm the worst, I'm the last, I'm the first, I'm in chains, I am free, I am you, you are me, maybe I'm no one, and I'm crying today. I will go, I will come, I will stay, I will run, I will cry, have some fun, I'm alone in the dark, can you hear me? I'm telling my story.
some of you enjoying the song. That's great. Do you feel better? Your body is not stiff anymore. Okay, I would like to see some reaction, please. Could you please give me a heart or even thumbs up? Okay, that's great. Thank you, everyone. Now I would like to give the screen back to Miss Lee and also Professor Michael. The screen are yours.
Thank you, Angeline. What a wonderful Saturday night, listening to the story and dancing at the same time. Professor Michael, without further ado, please to continue.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to share that with you, the song, and it's fantastic to see people dancing. You know, Indonesia for me is a special place for me. One of the reasons for this is that that song. I did a kind of a workshop in I think it was a university. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I played. I didn't know, but they made a surprise for me. The students they made their own version of the song. They sang the song to me, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning because the lesson was at like 9 o'clock in the morning at the university. So it was in Italy. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, or something like that. And I was listening, and they were singing this song to me, and I was almost in tears. And I played it to, I showed it to my friends who play the music with me, and they were crying. It was a beautiful moment, you know, that people from Indonesia are singing our song. You know, it was special. And so a year later, I did a conference in 10 cities in Italy with many students, with thousands of Italian teachers. And I showed them this video, every single one. So many people have seen this video. Many teachers of English in Italy have seen the video of, and I really should have prepared it so that I could have shared it with you, but maybe I can send it and so that you can have it on the platform and you can see this video and you will see what I mean. Because you can see me on the screen and I'm getting very emotional. It was a complete surprise to me. So the song, did you catch some of the lyrics? You were dancing, like it was great, you know, it was wonderful. Did you catch some of the lyrics? The first part is like, the first like 4 lines is, I'm the best, I'm the worst, I'm the last, I'm the first. I'm in chains, I am free, I am you, you are me. I'm the best, I'm the worst, I'm the last, I'm the first. I'm in chains, I am free, I am you, you are me. That is really, again, what stories try to do, to tell you that we're all the same, we're all in the same boat. There is a connection between us all and we have to understand, and stories help us to reach that, and also music as well. And when somebody is victimized in any way, they don't want to be treated in a special way. They want to be treated like everybody else. They want to be the best and the worst and the last and the first. They want the same things as everybody. They don't want to be pitied. They want to have the connection and be a part of you know, of what it means to be human. So I think we have another, I don't know whether we have another Energizer coming up later, because there's another one, I think, but that was a kind of an extra one, which I think was, thank you, Leo, for showing it. And so I can go back now to sharing my screen. And Leah, tell me if you want, when you want to do another one on the next Energize. I wanted to basically, okay, I wanted to, the second part of our talk, I wanted to just talk a little bit more about, going into a bit more depth about why stories are important and what they do. I'd like to sort of pinpoint 2 or 3 key things that stories do, and to back up my statement as well that stories can save the world. I need to give you some kind of reason why I said that. Okay, so I wanted to talk about that with you. You know, why out of the stories? You know, basically, like stories. If you think about it, you know, when my daughter was very young, you know, when my daughter was born, I've got a daughter now who is 23. When she was born, I thought, okay, now my job is to teach my daughter, you know, how to survive, how to be happy, how to have to live a rich and full life. But I didn't know what she did was she taught me maybe more than I taught her, because what children do, if you let them do it, they help you to remember what it's like, what it was like to be a child, and to remember some of the things that are important that we forget when we become adults. What you just did in the, it was beautiful what you just did in the Energizer. And I'll tell you why. Because when Alicia was, my daughter was very little, she, I would like, I get up very early in the morning, and I would take her downstairs with me, and she had her toys, and she would run to her toys. Even if they were just like 3 meters away, she would run really fast. Yeah, like even 3 meters. And I watched her, and I thought, well, I never really run for no reason anymore. I only run for a reason. If I go jogging, maybe. If I am, if I'm maybe I need to get the bus, and I see the bus coming, and I run. But I don't run for no reason. There always has to be a reason. So I thought, okay, tomorrow I'm going to run for no reason. And so that is what I did. The next morning, I ran to my breakfast, my kitchen table, and it's a few meters, and I felt really good. And I suggest you try that. The Energizer did this thing that you just did there. It gives you this energy, just this movement, like, and more, it's stronger than the coffee. It's better than the coffee that you drink afterwards. So if you, I mean, and it's what children do, and it's why they do it. You know, they run like, watch your child the next time you see, or, you know, watch them, the way they move. Another time, it was the summer, and I was sitting with my daughter in the garden, and it was a beautiful day. One of those days that's perfect, because it's sunny, but there's like a breeze. And so you feel really good. This is the top. When it's like that, you know, it's perfect. But I was not thinking, because I was correcting homework. I was sitting in the garden correcting. My daughter was sitting next to me, and she nudged me like this. She said, "Dad, Dad." I said, yes, teacher. And I saw she had her arms stretched out like this. And she said, "Daddy, the breeze, the wind." And like, I copied her. I did the same thing. And I just concentrated on the wind and the breeze and the feeling on my arms. It was father and daughter holding out their hands to a welcoming sky. It was a beautiful moment. And I learned that, yeah, it's good sometimes to stop and smell the roses, smell the flowers, and feel the feelings, and appreciate those things that we forget, that we take for granted. And my daughter reminded me of this. She was always dragging me back into the present moment, saying, "Daddy, Daddy." One time, she taught me an even bigger lesson, I think, for me personally. One day she was not very well. And I was worried about her. She was in pain. She was uncomfortable. I won't give you the details but she was like, she needed help. And so I had to take her to the hospital very quickly. And while we were going to the hospital in the ambulance, I thought I will tell her a story, because I always tell her stories, and it relaxes her. So I thought I will try to do this. So I told her a story, and I noticed immediately I was encouraged by the fact that her eyes locked onto my eyes when I started to tell a story. And even though she was in pain and she was uncomfortable and she was frightened, she was following the story. Encouraged by this, I carried on with the story. I continued with the story. But the hospital, luckily, is very near. And we got to the hospital and I said, oh, I stopped the story. I didn't finish. I said, now we're going to go into the hospital and there'll be a nice lady who will look after you and make you feel better. And she said, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And I said, what? She said, what happens next? And that really, I'll never forget that moment. What happens next, she shouted. And it was so important to know the story that she'd almost forgotten that she was going to the hospital and that she was not very well. But she was, obviously, it was a problem that was resolved with some medicine, and she had an allergy problem, and it was resolved. But it was an incredible moment, basically, to show how powerful a story is, that it can help her to forget. It can help a child to forget. So basically, stories are powerful. And I got that lesson many, many years ago from my daughter, who is another important teacher for me. But what stories, the best stories do, they get you to ask questions. I think it's very important that there is this kind of interaction, there is this dialogue, there is this. So when you're writing a story, if you want to tell a story, share a story, and make a story, you've got to always try to find a way of getting the story to open up questions. The biggest question, what happens next, of course. Questions that maybe the characters are asking. But it's also they're asking you. You know, you're in the story, don't forget. If it's a good story, and so maybe two characters are thinking about what to do, what can we do, what shall we do? What shall we do? But that we is inclusive. That we includes you as a reader. And so a story is very important, that there is this one ingredient that we have to have is that question, really, all the time. And if you remember Egghead is asking questions all the time. To trying to find a way out, trying to find a solution, trying to find a way so people will respect him and want to be with him, so he can belong. Okay, do you want to press this button? If you saw a button like this, would you press it? Or would you want to press this button? What do you think? Any write in the chat, yes or no? Would you press this button, yes or no?
Please respond the questions in the chat box. Okay, we have seen several answers. Some says yes, one person say no, the other yes.
I think I will.
Yeah,
I think I will.
Yes,
no.
Yeah. Now is no getting bigger.
Yes. No, because we see the sign. Do not press, yeah. I think no. Forbidden means do it. Forbidden means do it. Yeah, because if forbidden, you're tempted to press it. Yeah, why? What will happen? What happens next? Yeah. That's pretty much the response is interesting. There's some yeses, some nos. Why does it exist then? That's a really interesting. Why does it exist then if it's not going to be pressed? What's it for? That's lovely. That's lovely. Yeah. So basically, except if there's another word for emergency. But there is something inside us that wants to press this button. I think there is always some kind of, when push comes to the shove, do it. Yeah. But basically, there is this kind of part of us that really wants to press the button. Yeah, I think. And what stories do, and one of the reasons why it is worrying that children generally don't read so many stories nowadays, and children play video games, is because stories teach us about consequences. If you think about it, stories are all about consequences. About there's somebody who does something, and there's a consequence for their actions. And so when they read a story, if it's like Egghead or anything, or any kind of story, you're learning about consequences as a child. And that's a powerful kind of lesson. You know, if you do something that's wrong, maybe you will have to pay some kind of price for that. Or, you know, maybe if you press that button, I want to press that button, but if I press that button, what will happen? Maybe I will be in trouble. Maybe someone will come and tell me off, and or maybe it will be embarrassing. But you know, there's some kind of thing that stops you, maybe because you have read stories and things. But if you think about video games, which a lot of children play now, they don't teach you consequences, because video games are, you play the game. If it goes wrong, you can start the game again. You can behave really badly in a video game, and then say, okay, let's start again. Or you can save the game, a really good game, and say, okay, I'll leave that, and when I want to come back to that saved game, I can go back to that saved game. So what it's teaching children is that they can really, you know, that there are no consequences. And if you play games over and over again, like video, and you just play video games, and you're 8 years old and 9 years old and 10 years old, then this is the lesson that you're getting. If you're not reading stories, the stories are full of consequences. And then we have people that go up in aeroplanes and drop bombs. And if they have just been fed a diet of video games, then they feel nothing when they press the button. It's just another game. They don't know that they don't think there are people underneath those bombs. That's one of the reasons why we have to get our children, we have to get children of the future, children who are not even born yet. We have to make sure that some of you will, obviously many of you will be future parents. On the agenda for you is getting children to read, getting your children to read. And you know what the best way is to tell them stories and to read. And they will copy you. If they see you reading, they're going to do that as well. If they see you on this, they're going to do that as well. So that's how important it is. So stories give you that kind of. I'm going to write something on the chat now. If you look at the word responsibility. The word responsibility, you know, basically when you learn about consequences, when you learn that you can't press the button, you're learning to be responsible. And what is responsible is the ability to respond. So stories, when we tell stories, when you share a story, you are teaching them, you're learning when you're reading a story, you're improving your ability to respond. in the appropriate way. The response here, the real response will be all of us, we won't press this button. Or it depends where we are. If this button is in an elevator, will you press it? Probably not.
Maybe not.
If this button is in an aeroplane, will you press it? No, maybe not. If it's so, basically, it helps you to understand, okay, how to respond to situations. The ability to respond. That's the gift that the stories can give people. Okay, now I wanted to maybe, yeah, when you're writing a story, it's important to know. For me personally, when I write a story, I have to know where my character begins and where my character ends. And in fact, I don't know, have you thought about this? I don't know whether you've had time to think about this question. It's one of the questions I wanted to ask you before. If you could think of a story now, like just the beginning and the ending, right? And that's all, very simple. I'll give you an example so what I mean. Like I wrote a story last year about a Japanese girl, she's about, let's say she's about 12 years old, okay? And I wanted this Japanese girl to be sad. So I thought of an emotion straight away, okay? I want you to try to do this, okay? So I'm going to tell you step by step what I did, okay? And then maybe you can try to just spend 5-10 minutes thinking about how you could begin and end your story. So I decided this Japanese girl is sad. And then I decided she's sad because she's looking at the sea and she's on the beach and she's going to say goodbye. And then I wanted the story to end with her sitting on the beach and she's happy. Very simple. Okay. So sitting on a beach, looking out at the sea, and she's sad. Sitting on the beach, looking at the sea, happy. And if you have like this kind of thing, it's like having a frame on a picture. You have, like when you make a puzzle, when you do a puzzle, you put the pieces that make the frame. And then you know what to put inside. Then you put the green pieces together where there is the grass, you put different pieces and basically you can structure the puzzle. What I'm saying is that you have this frame if you do this. And then ideas start to come. And I started to think, she's saying goodbye to the sea because she's going away from Japan. And she's going to another country. Okay. So she's saying goodbye to the Pacific Ocean. What can happen to her? In that journey, she's sad, she's going to another place, another country. But at the end, she finds friendship and she finds a way and she's on a beach in another place and she's happy. And then you start to fill in all of the details. Okay, so I will tell you what happened to my story, what the details were. But if you could just like now, together in some way, just to brainstorm a little bit. How many people do we have in the room? Can we have like
60-ish, 60 something?
5 or 6 breakout rooms where you can talk about it and think of a beginning and the ending of a story.
All right. Okay. We will probably take about how many minutes, sir? 5 to 10?
Yeah, for maybe 10 minutes, we could take 10 minutes to do this because it will take a little while, but to make your proposal. I don't know if you've had time to think about this before or not in the course.
It could be, it is prepared already. Okay, Kafingi, could you please put us in the breakout room, about 6 maybe breakout rooms? Thank you. Okay, yeah.
Or do I stop sharing?
You could, but it's okay also if not, because everybody is going to join in the breakout room. Everybody, the breakout room is ready. Could you please click on your breakout room icon and then join the breakout room? You have about 10 minutes to discuss on making a story line, a very short one that is only the beginning and the ending. Thank you. I think most of them, some of them has already joined. We need to wait. Right, most of them. Room 3 is a good proportion, I guess. So yeah, mostly they are about 6 to 7.
Yes, I can see that they're organizing themselves in their rooms.
Right, and you can actually jot into any kind of group so that you can see the discussions.
Okay, where can
You're welcome to, yeah.
So I can go into any group.
Yes, you are able to move to any group.
Okay, maybe it's easy if I stop sharing, then I can
Yes,
see.
yes.
I can see more of the options. I can see them better.
Yeah. Okay. Have you seen the breakout room already, sir?
Now I can see
Recording
them.
stopped.
Okay. Please click on the breakout room sign on below.
Yes, I got it. Room 1, room 2.
Okay. Have a great journey of discussion, sir.
I think so.
The participant is still coming back, sir. So I think we need to wait until about maybe they're reaching like 60.
Tell me if you tell me if they need another. Tell me if they need another breakout. You know, no problem. Sorry, if they need another energizer, let me know.
Oh, okay.
You just
All right. Right. Okay, I think now, yeah, most of them are back. Maybe we can start now.
Recording
A couple
in
of person,
progress.
maybe after that, let's see, let's wait until 60, yeah, already, sir. Let's go. Back to you, Professor Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got everything. Okay. Yeah, I visited, I think, some of the rooms, and I listened most of the time. It's interesting how one of the things I noticed is that you're making circles, which is really a good thing to do, I think, because we love circles. Stories are often about circles, about, you know, you start somewhere and then you go full circle from, you know, you go right round. And some of you talked about the Japanese story and how to develop this. And some of you had some different stories. Is there anybody who wants to share their beginning and their end with the rest of the group?
I've been also joining into several discussions, sir, and then I think group 1 with Shirley as a facilitator could share, because we have a very interesting story from Marina. Could please, the committee, Pingy, could you please put on spotlight here? Right there. Okay, Marina, would you please share us your beginning and ending of a story? You also mentioned about circle. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just telling the rest of the group that my story has to do with a girl who is feeling very lost because she has to retell her personal stories of traumas, and she has to go through them, and so she starts traveling around the world, and after having met lots of people, after experiencing quite a lot, then she comes back again to her home country, and she feels that this kind of circle has come to an end, and that she feels better because she has realized that, yeah, all things considered, she's worth. She's enough after all. And that's okay.
That's
anyway,
beautiful.
okay. And you know, it's about life experiences and discovering
Great.
her true self. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. It has the framework for a really, really engaging story, I think. Because like it's like saying to me, what it says to me is that, you know, you have to sometimes go away to understand what home is and what is important to you. You have to be far away from it, so that then you can understand who you are. I think that's what it says to me when you're telling me this story. That's how I connect. You know, sometimes it's like, you know, when you go away from your, I don't know, we take for granted so many things. And it's only when we have the absence of those things, then we realize. And certainly, I think, you know, from my own experience, you know, living in Italy, I love Italy, but I understand what it means to be British now better, because I'm not living in Britain. So I understand myself more. So I can, you know, that's what happens with a good story. It's like a container where you can put yourself inside. That's what stories do. You know, you think, I think a really good story is always when somebody says, oh, I could write that. That's always that, you know, because that's where you want to be. It's my story, you know. So that's lovely, yeah. There's the circle again, you know. And so now you can start to put in the details. You know what I mean? You can start to put in all the ingredients. But if you have a framework, I was saying to one group, that if you have this framework, then the ideas can come to you from nowhere. What happens to me often is that I don't know what I'm going to do. And obviously in the breakout room, you only have a few minutes. So for creativity, a clock is a bad thing. You know, when you have like 5 minutes to do something. But if you have the framework like you have there, is it Marina?
Mm-hmm.
Then when you're doing something else, you're taking your dog for a walk, or you're having a shower, or you're having your breakfast, you get, and what you have to do then is to stop and write it down or record it on your phone, or so you don't lose it, because if you don't write it down, you will lose it. Because these ideas, I think, they come from nowhere, and they don't belong to us. They arrive, and you have to get them like a balloon, like with the string. You have to get them before they fly away again. Or it's like a tap that's running, and the water is running out. It's running and running, and you have to respond to it. Yeah, so beautiful. I think that's lovely. And there's another story that was about like a boy standing in an alleyway being really scared, which is again full of imagery, as you know, this narrow, dark alleyway, being scared, and then being in the alleyway and being confident and happy. That's an intriguing circle as well. That was in another breakout room. Somebody was talking about that. Any other? Yeah. Do you have any others to share? Or
Yes. Please, those who want to share the story, maybe you can raise your hands and turn on your mic, please. Okay. Well, we have Tran Halam. Okay, Tran, could you please turn on your camera? Is it possible for you to turn on your camera so we can put you under spotlight?
Yes, I'm sorry because my camera is not working. When I turn it on, it's just black and I can't see even my face too.
Okay. So is it okay, Professor Michael? We can hear the voice still.
yes, that's fine. Tran.
Okay.
And the name is Tran.
Go ahead.
Yes. Well, I have a story, and it's about a polar bear. Yes. After last day we have learned about the poem about the polar bear, and well, it started in my head. Well, my story is about a polar bear. He was one of the king of the frozen land with his beautiful white furs, and until one day he was captured by humans and stripped off her fur, the thing that he was proud of. The other polar bears began to spy and bully him, but the sea goose used their feathers to give him a new coat, a new fur, and thank for that he got his land back. But however, one day the human was tame again, and they want to steal his feathers, his furs again, but with the feathers by the sea goose, he flew away, and it's an open ending. This is my story.
And it's interesting that you chose polar bear, which is already, wow, polar bear. And that you use an animal. I think it's a really clever thing to do, because through animals we can tell so many different stories, I think, because you can look at the attributes of an animal and use that to sort of tell a story, I think. Yeah. And you read a poem about this, and that inspired you, yeah? So it's interesting, yeah, polar bear.
Yes, when well, about that poem, when I read about it and see about the problem about the natures and how people do with the natures, and I think about it a lot. Like the open ending about my old open ending, the polar bear was far away, but maybe he will fly to another land, but maybe he just fly away. He don't know where he had to go because people really want to cut him, and he don't know where he want to go and where it belong to him. I think about that.
Yeah, there's lots of symbolism there, and there's lots of, well, the SDG, it runs through this. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You were right, Michael. Professor Michael used to dress. So
Yes,
you were right. They were studying with the long of this SDG, and then last time they were looking at eco-critics, and then the other they were looking at hope. So this is what actually they comes up for. So we are really happy because of that. Could we listen to two person at once? Could we, so we can have a merit discussions? Can we have Zaira Bokar, Zaira, under the, yeah, and also Chakra, Spotlight Chakra. Chakra, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, could you turn on? Okay, it's quite hard though. Yeah, okay, all right. Could you please tell us the story? Who wants to go first? I think Zaira will be, and after that followed by Chakra or Chakra first.
So, continuing the story that
Okay,
was given
okay.
already based from Professor Michael, since the last tragic idea has already been told to all of you, I feel like I would like to make it a bit more tragic. So, a 12 years old girl, a Japanese girl, said goodbye because she already promised to a boy who she met before at school, and she promised him to meet at the beach. But then she was then kidnapped. She was kidnapped.
Sorry, what did you say?
She promised him to meet at the beach because they might want to say something, and then they might want to discuss something. But then she was kidnapped. The boy just stepped into the beach, and he who saw it, he was really panicked and running to the guy who kidnapped her. But the guy already left the island. And then she said goodbye. She said goodbye. That was the last time she met the boy. The boy didn't stop there. He came back to school crying, and then he told the teachers, what should we do? And then she's being kidnapped. She's being sold to another country. She's being tortured. She's being pulled into a translator for someone's country. I won't say country. And the boy joined the military. He himself in Japan joined the military, and he started to learn about about IT, and then he tracked down her path. And then he tracked down her path, and then he joined in the mission to the same country that she was brought to.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an adventure.
Yeah, they met again. And then throughout all of the action, and throughout all of the efforts, throughout all of the sacrifices, they finally should come back on a boat to the sea where they should have met back in the day.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I mean, I think when you write a story with lots of action, one of the challenges is the pacing of it, is the kind of the rhythm. It's like a piece of music. If you have a piece of music like that is and it just goes at that rhythm, and after a while the listener switches off. So you have to have moments where you stop and you pause and let the reader think, and that's when emotion comes in. So like there are moments with the relationship between the boy and the girl that you just slow down the action so that you let the reader like jump into that experience. And then you move to the next part of the adventure. The best stories do that. There are always moments when, you know, the reader or the viewer, if it's a film, has that chance to take a breather and to jump inside the story a little bit. You know, otherwise it's like if you have a chase scene and they're always being chased, you get after a while not another chase. You know, so I think that you can blend these two things together basically with the romance and just like make sure that, you know, you leave space for that. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sorry for the background noise because
Right.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chakra. All right, Zaira, now it's your turn. Right.
I hope we're having all a good hour. To start off, I would like to say that through the session, I have realized something. Storytelling is letting a reader into the world of a story. That is my pickup from your discussion, sir. And my story, I've been thinking about this a lot since like the past 2 years. This is a story of a person. The title of the story is Shades. Shades meaning there are different colors or different hues of the color blue. And that color blue represents the different personas that this person has. And her struggle in her life or in his life is the different personas that she has. She's I think this is a disease. This is a psychological disease where a person has multiple personalities, multiple as I said, multiple personalities, where she struggles to learn who she really is. She struggles to understand what attitude, what perception would she really believe. Throughout the story, she tries to figure out, to sort out who she really was through understanding the different colors of blue. She got into idea of the light blue. She got into idea of the dark blue. She got into idea of the royal blue. She has seen through the colors of blue how differently she could have lived her life if she would follow those patterns of color. It's actually an incomplete story, but the sense of the story is that it's finding yourself.
Yes,
finding yourself. Yes, sir.
No, you have to write, you have to continue, you have to make this story, complete the stories. It's a wonderful idea.
Yes, sir.
Color is a protagonist.
Yes, sir. And it's an open-ended story where the character continued to question who she really was, but the only thing she denoted about herself is that she is blue, and no one can take that away from her. I think that is the story that I have in mind.
Is your first line. The first line of your story is that, because that grabs your attention. If you read a line like that, you are going to read that story. You know, Gina's color was blue, and nobody could take that away from her. You know, what an opening.
Thank you, sir.
It's a beautiful story. And like, there is a story that I wrote called All the Colors of Sam.
Wow.
And I can really relate to what you're saying, because basically in this story, I tried to make every character represent a color. And the colors in the background changed because of the one character was yellow, one character was red, one character was blue, and then when the blue and the yellow character mixed, they were in, like, for example, the blue and the yellow, the blue and the yellow, they were in a field, or the green, because blue and yellow makes green. So this mixing of colors as well, and I made a song about that actually as well. This is a beautiful idea, all the different colors of blue, all the colors, and I think we can all relate to it as well. All these ideas that you've been giving me, they're all things you can relate to, all of you, all the things you've said. Like I've often looked and thought, how many different kinds of green are there? If you just look outside your window, so beautiful. Zaira, I want to read your story. Okay, so when you finish it, you can send it.
Yes, sir. I will definitely do that. Thank you, sir. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well done. Okay. So shall we continue, Professor Michael?
Sorry?
Shall we continue?
Yes, sure. The ideas were wonderful, really beautiful, really clever, engaging, and that's just not very much time. You haven't had much time to think of these things. But once with creativity, what happens, in my opinion, is that it's about asking a question and then trusting the universe to give you the answer. If you panic, it won't come. But if you trust that it will come, it will come. And that moment when, for example, you're sitting there and Marina, for example, gets an idea about an ingredient for her story, or Zaira an ingredient for her story, and so on. You just you drop everything and you make sure you record it. You make sure you put it down. You write it down. It will come. It will come. If you have the frame, if you have an idea, it will come, and it will come when it wants to. There's a story I wrote called Dot to Dot. I knew the title. I would write. I said to myself when I was 19, maybe not about the same age as you, Zaira, probably now. Maybe I was 19, and I said, I'm going to write a story called Dot to Dot. And I did, but it took a long time, but I did. I had this idea, and the ideas can come at different times, at different moments, and so that was really, really interesting. The ending before you begin, basically the girl who is sad looking at the Pacific Ocean, it was because I was sad, because I was leaving Japan, and I really loved being in Japan in 2018, and I had to go home, and I wanted to stay a little bit longer because I loved being in Japan, and so I wrote a story about this and this sadness stayed with me about leaving, and I thought, okay, she's going to take something with her. She's going to England because her mother and father are moving to England. And so she's got to go. She's got to say goodbye to the Pacific Ocean. And so I started to fill up with detail. I thought, she's on the beach. What is on the beach? A seashell. Okay, this story is for 12-year-old children. She takes the seashell with her. She's on the plane saying goodbye to Japan. And the seashell she puts to her ear, and it speaks to her. And so basically there's some magic in the story at this point, and basically you fill in the details like this. They come to you because you have the frame. You have this idea, and the story, what happens with a story is it tells itself almost. If you just make sure you record the things, you write them down in the right place, and you trust, it feels sometimes like the story writes itself. Japan, the imagery, it looks like a seahorse. And Britain looks like a dragon. So in the eye of this young Japanese girl, she was moving from a seahorse to a dragon. It's frightening, And so basically, I think if that's the idea, if you have an idea, it's like any kind of journey, you have to know, if I'm coming to, if I'm going to go to Indonesia, which I hope I will be going to Indonesia next year, I'm coming hopefully in August to Indonesia. And or if I want to go to another country nearby, like the Philippines, for example, if I want to go there, I've always wanted to go there. I will have to know where I start and where I finish. Then I can make an itinerary to get there. And it's the same with a story. You have to, it helps you to get to the end. So, and I think one of the things that we did touch upon was that it's important to draw a theme out of your story. You know, that it often comes afterwards, and I don't know why the environment is so tiny here. I don't know. It should be much bigger than that. It's come out in the font. If you can see, it says friendship, family, the environment, but like a strong theme. Often that comes, maybe it comes to the surface, not immediately, but you know, that this is another thing that is, I think, very useful to have, some kind of idea of a theme. As I said before, keep it simple. When you keep the story, like, you know, it's like, again, like a journey. Don't make too many detours. If you get too clever, then the reader will lose interest and get lost. You know, make sure that there's, like, I think it's always good to have something exciting happening, like maybe every quarter of the story, something exciting happens. There's a peak, and then there's kind of a bit more inactivity, or let's say it slows down, and then another peak, and it slows down. And that readers will respond to that much more. But also when you're telling a story, you know, like with Egghead, I asked you to read the story, but I also asked you to listen to a story as well, and it's different. When I'm telling a story, you know, I have to think of things. If you go into a school and you tell your story, for example, you tell a story to some students or your brother or your sister, eye contact is important. You keep that eye contact, use it. Watch the eyes of the person who is listening to your story. If they light up, you know the story is going well. Use dramatic pauses. I think one of the things about when you're telling a story is that the silence is important as well, that moment when you stop. The courage to stop and give the listener a chance to reflect. So use pauses. When you're telling a story as well, it's very important. Use the caps to invite them to guess. And appeal to their senses. Or maybe you can even use one sense, you know, like as a basis for your story. I mean, Zaira's story is using sight, you know, the color blue. But it could be smell, it could be touch, it could be taste. It's how we understand the world. It's through the senses that we have. And so, you know, it's very useful to single out maybe a sense and think and tell a story that is based on that in some way. Or as we saw with the polar bear, a story, which was great, very, very good. Animals also can help you to tell a story. For example, think of an animal, like, let's say, an octopus. What do you know about the octopus? Is anybody an expert in the animal, the octopus? Everybody in the West now is speaking about octopus. They're intelligent, animals. Why? What do they? Do you know anything about this animal? Anybody? Okay, in the chat there's some. An animal, an octopus has 3 hearts. Every tentacle is a brain. And so you can say, okay, can we construct a story about that? 3 hearts, 3 people. 6 brains, 6 legs, 3 people that are lost and they reunite. You know, quickly, you can make a story out of an animal, just looking at about the attributes of an animal. And I'm almost there. I'm just running through the last few things. I only have about 5 minutes with you. Use music, as I said. Chatra was who talked about whose incredible story about the hijacking. Remember the rhythm. Remember the rhythm. So don't go too quickly, too fast, all the time. Give the space to ask what happens next. Stories give you empathy, they help you to understand consequences, they help you to be creative, tell stories, write them. It helps your brain, it helps you to communicate, it helps you to make sense of the world, it helps you to think of solutions. It helps you to make a reaction. When you read a story, and reaction is an anagram of creation. If you move the C of reaction to the beginning of the word, you have creation. They are connected. So get your readers, get your listeners to react, and it's an act of creation. And yeah, asking questions gives you direction. So when you're making these stories that you're talking about, keep asking questions. How is my character feeling? Is my character, is it what she is doing compatible with her character? Remember the character that you've made. Is Egghead the character of Egghead? He's got to do things that are compatible with the character that I've made from him. Who is he going to meet? When is he going to be happy? Why is he sad? You just keep asking questions while you're writing, and it will help you. It will give you answers. As I said, creativity is about asking questions and then waiting for the answer. So I have there's no time for questions, I imagine, at the moment. Leah, I lose track of time when I talk about stories.
Yes. Yeah. Could you come to me one more time, sir? I think, yeah, we don't. But maybe.
If we finish it, okay, well, I hope to see you. I mean, like some of you, I know you're from different countries. I know that Indonesia's like hosted, really, in some way, keep in touch. Okay, I'm on Facebook. My name, you know my name, you will find me immediately if you type in my name. Also on Instagram, and 1 or 2 of you have found me on Instagram already, and very happy about that. So keep in touch if you want to talk about stories or ask me anything about them, anything like that. Just drop me a line, just let me know, just write to me and I will respond.
All right. Okay. Or is that probably if we have a very quick one question, probably, Professor, was it okay? Or very quick, so very quick, guys, a very quick question. If you have something in mind that you popped up and it is important for you that you are going to ask, especially in making stories, please just we will probably take one, right, Professor? Maybe we can take one only.
Okay.
Please, if you would like to also maybe raise your hands. Right, we are waiting. We still have currently probably maybe 2 minutes and 3 minutes. Okay, we have one participant who's asking. Okay, could you please make it quick, Angelo? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mindy. I have a question. Well, personally, I want to write a storytelling about it. So the question is, can the story genre can be like non-fiction, because I cannot imagine about the story about the past, but it doesn't happen in the actual history. So I want to make like a fiction. Can
But yeah, you can have yes, you can be completely fictional, but there will be pieces. There will be pieces of you. Inevitably, it's inevitable that there will be pieces of you in that story, and that makes it a better story. So, but yeah, it can be like you know, Egghead is an exception because it's like a kind of autobiography. But the other stories I've written, my friends will recognize pieces of that story, where even whatever context I'm in, or whatever context the story is in, they will say, yeah, they will recognize something. And so, yeah, you have to go home to write the story. As I said before, it's very important that you don't think you have to become a totally different person to write a story. The story is about your history. It's story. It's, history. It's your story. So don't be afraid of doing that. I think everybody does it. To be honest with you, all right, people who write any story, you find something about the writer.
Right. Thank you, Professor Michael, for the answer. Thank you, Angela, for questioning. It's a very fruitful discussion today, and we are very thankful. I think maybe everybody can please put on your comments in the chat box and say, like very grateful that today we have this kind of discussion, because I myself was very surprised on how easy a story can be made. Sometimes when we are making it in the very full theory, and then we don't understand anymore what the reader wants. So thank you, Professor Michael, for very enlightening and insightful sessions on how easy a story can be made, and also what's the impact of your life. You can have like understanding, responsibility, consequences. Wow, it's empathy also, and that's what we need in the world these days. Yes, absolutely. Powerful message. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us, and also thank you for being here and teaching us that.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. A real
Hope
honor.
to see you very soon when you are in Indonesia.
Hope so. Yes, that would be wonderful.
Right. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. You've all been wonderful. Thank you. You're in my heart. Bye-bye.
Right. Once again, bye-bye, sir. Though bye is not, it's only a delayed meeting, right? So thank you again, and everybody, please give your appreciation by in the chat box on by giving some reactions, and I will give the screen back to Stephen and Safira. Stephen and Safira, the screen is to you.
Thank you, Ms. Leah. Thank you very much, Professor Michael, for the fascinating, insightful, and inspiring session. I bet we really loved it, since we have lots of comments here.
And thank you for Ms. Leah to moderating the session for today. Participants, we still give you a time for you to express your appreciation to our speakers through the chat box.
All right, thank you, participants. Yes. Okay, thank you. Dear participants, our next agenda is a collaborative working session. We would like to invite the executive committee to explain the collaborative working session. To the executive committee, the time and screen are yours.
Okay, thank you, Safira and Stephen. But I guess we need like maybe 1 or 2 minutes for Energizer. I believe that Aline and the bear are so much excited and ready to meet you all again. So I give the screen to Aline, and thank you for the video.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Miss Arin. All right, everyone, of course, we are very excited for the Energizer session again, right? Of course, after being seated for so long, all right, I would like all of you to stand up again. We are going to do our Energizer again. Okay, please stand up, everyone. And now I would like to ask Kak Pinky for helping us in our video. I would like to ask Kak Pinky for helping us in our video.
Right.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? I can feel it. Oh, yes. Oh, my love, I want to make you move. Hey, hey, baby, all night long. My song is back for you, baby. And everybody say we. I got to feel good, baby. Here we go! Diggy, 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 pound! Hey! Yeah, baby! Bebop, bebop! Oh, yeah! Right! Baba, baba! Pom pom!
Yeah, all right. That's our bear for today. Thank you everyone for joining the Energizer again. I hope that you feel energized after this. Now I would like to return the screen back to the executive committee. The screen are yours.
Okay, thank you, Aline. All I see on the screen is your your what's that, hands doing this, whatever the Charlie bear does on the screen, you just do this. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. You've learned a lot about the power of telling the stories, right? You learn also a lot from our sessions on SDGs so far, that in terms of the education, especially literacy, it's still a big issue, either in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Vietnam, in Bangladesh, in Taiwan. It's still a big issue for us. The question is, what can we do? What can we, the participants of UKRIDA Virtual Integrated Short Course, can do about it? It may be a small steps, but we do something instead of keep talking about it, right? Or keep or letting it sit in our head without doing something about it. So that's the background why we bring up this project to you. So let me share the screen to you. I hope that I will not face any problem while I am displaying the files to you. Okay, can you tell me if my slides are seen by you now? Can you see my slide?
For now, not yet, Miss.
Not yet, okay. All right, so the project that, can you see it now, I think, yeah?
Yes, Miss.
Right, okay, so together, out of this short course program, we will come out with a tangible product, tangible action that everybody will take part into making the project a realization. I really hope that it will work. Can you see something on my screen?
It's still on the first page of the PowerPoint slide, Miss.
Yeah. My laptop is, okay, let me display it again. Okay, I hope that you can see it now.
Yes, Miss, we can see it.
Okay, so the project is called FBRD, everyone. So what does FBRD stand for? It is F stand for find, P stand for prepare, R stand for record, and D stand for donate. So our project is called Find, Prepare, Record, Donate project. So what kind of project is that? So FBRD is a literacy project. The output later will be contributed, will be donated to foster the literacy for children, for literacy for school, and also literacy for family. So actually the center is for the children, and the impact, of course, or it also goes to those who work closely to children, so schools and family. So this is a group project where you, with your fellow participant, collaboratively plan, prepare, and make things out. So what are you going to make out together? You will produce 2 sets of audio-visual literacy materials. What is it? It's as simple as audio-visual storytelling materials. Professor Michael has revealed a very strong and powerful impact of storytelling. Now, because we are limited of time, we don't have plenty of time for you to make your own story. Maybe you, in the future, you will make it by yourself. But right now, we will work on our project by using the existing story. So you don't have to write your own story later in your group. you will decide, you will work on the existing story. Okay, so story, everybody. Again, let me emphasize that the final product of this project is 2 sets of audio-visual storytelling materials. Again, the underlying message is that you, especially as the participant, you come up, you step up by contributing a manageable and feasible response to the issue of quality education, especially literacy. These are the steps of working with the project. We put it according to the abbreviation itself. So in FIND, there are sets of activities that you will do together: prepare, record, and donate. I will just go to this, to donate. So your audiovisual storytelling materials later will be donated to the schools who are in need of e-literacy materials. Your storytelling materials that are ready to be donated then will be symbolically handed to the schools in our in our closing ceremony. So we will invite schools come to our closing ceremony, and each of the group will hand their audio visual storytelling materials. So teachers at school will use the story in their literacy activity. Right now, yes, some of schools have allowed their students to come and study in school area, but some have not. So what we are trying to provide is the e-material. So anytime that, you know, kids zaman now, or in Indonesia, it's the present kids, they are very close with the gadget, right? You cannot take the gadget away from them, but what you can do is that turn it into something beneficial for them. So that's the bottom line of our project. I hope that you are excited with the project and take part enthusiastically. So what you're going to do in your group, each of the student facilitator will help you later in the breakout room. Okay, thank you everybody. I give the screen back to Safira and Stephen.
Thank you to the executive committee for explaining the collaborative working session. Now you will be assigned to the breakout room with the student facilitators. They will explain the further detail of the FPRD project to you. See you soon, everyone.
See you, everyone.
Recording stopped.